Hi everyone, welcome back. I thought for the first video of this year I'd do a bit of a book review on this one, Cache Lake Country, Life in the North Woods. I'm going to start at this point for 2015 because it's a book that I've been recommending a lot to people recently. It's by far and away my favourite book to do with anything kind of outdoorsy. I've read a lot of the popular books, scripts by George Washington Sears or Nessmuk, Horace Keffart, Elmer Krebs, the more latter-day ones, Ray Mears or Mors Kahansky. And for me, this one absolutely tops the lot. Why? Because it's not an A to Z of skills, kit and equipment. It's not a full-on instructional guide. It's got a real storyline to it. Indeed, it started off as a series of letters that the author J Rowlands wrote while he was living out in the northern woods. And by an A to Z of skills and that sort of thing, I mean, you know, like the SAS Survival Handbook or others of a similar ilk. Great as they are and as popular as they are, a big part of my outdoors interest is really an amalgamation of a lot of things that we tend to pigeonhole these days, like bushcraft, survival, preparedness, self-reliance. And indeed for me it's more of a lifestyle, a state of mind, and that's where I can really relate to this book from a personal point of view. J Rowlands goes through the book not in an accepted format of chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, so on and so forth, but he follows the months of the year. There you can see starting off in, well, not starting off in April, we're a couple of chapters in obviously, but you know, April there, moving on to May. And I rather like this kind of format. It just takes you through the seasons and puts forward very much an integrated feeling into the environment. And that's really what it's all about. It's about living alongside the area that he's in, the Cache Lake. Obviously that's not the place's real name. He's named it Cache Lake because it offers all of the resources that you could possibly want to survive. Timber for buildings, fish, food hunted, water obviously, and other things. The diagrams in the book were put in by another one of the book's characters, called Henry B. Kane, or Hank as he's referred to in the book. And pretty much every page of the book has some of these illustrations. Many of them refer to little projects, and indeed in the introduction it states that you probably haven't read the book fully or properly if you haven't tried at least some of the little projects in there. And here's one you know a lot of people could probably relate to, having a little bucksaw blade carried in a tin and using like a little sapling to form a bucksaw or bow saw. And there's many other little projects in there as well. And I think that's an important point to note. When you look at these pigeonholed sets of skills or things, if you like, it's not all about the hunting and the using axes and big knives and fishing and all those fun things. A lot of one's life in this kind of lifestyle involves around the mundane tasks, the sewing, the mending, the fixing, the upcycling of certain items that ordinarily, I guess in these days, we would just throw away. And man's ingenuity in turning things that might look a bit useless one day into something useful another day. Time is an interesting concept through the book as well, because as it mentions in one of these intros, time is not measured in the seconds or minutes that we're susceptible to in the cities, for example, or in our everyday lives. We've got to be here or there at a certain time. We've got allocated time slots for certain things. Time is measured far more in the seasons and the events in the seasons, like a thawing process or a hailstorm, those sorts of things. Another one of the characters, Chief Tibiash, is a Cree Indian friend that taught J Rowlands an awful lot about living in the woods, and he pops up every once in a while. If you look at the first initial diagram, which is a map of the area, you can see where these individual characters live, and also the general landscape, the terrain that he often refers to throughout. And the thing for me, I guess, as well, Cache Lake is not just about the material things, the wood and the water and the food, that can be gathered, but it's also a source of inspiration, and that's really why this is kind of my favourite book. It's a dream for me. It's an aspiration. You know, if I could live a lifestyle that took me away from the shackles of modern society, took me away from the mortgage that we're paying, and having to go to work 9 to 5 like pretty much everybody these days does. You know, this is the kind of lifestyle that I would love to live and would aspire to live. Let's read you a little bit from the very beginning. Well, first of all, tell you a bit more about the book. Well, you can get that for $14.99 US dollars, or $14 or 19.99 Canadian. And I know you can pick this up for £10 on the UK shopping sites as well. First published in 1947, and then with a foreword written in the paperback by J Rowlands in 1959, where he refers to his life and how he's had a very successful career as a gold and silver prospector, miner, lumber scout, and that's really where his life comes into this book. Extra pertinence for me, I guess, is that he died in 1976, so actually his life overlapped mine, even so just by a year, but all the more pertinent just the same, whereas other texts that I've written are a little bit more removed in that they were sort of 1700s, 1800s, that kind of thing. There's loads of discussion around this book on forums, social media, with people trying to establish exactly where Cache Lake is, and there is a reference of how to try and find it in the book. I won't tell you that now, but there is a reference to it, and I think many people have actually tried. But again, really from my perspective, this is really about motivation. It's about inspiration. One of the most important mental aspects of why we go out and do what we do. And I know some people will say, well, I don't need motivation to get out and enjoy the outdoors. I just love it anyway. And that's fine. But, there's other people out there that have, I call it mundane lives, 9 to 5. They've got the school runs to do, the chores and all those sorts of things. And sometimes you need a little bit of a daydream just to help you along and give you that little extra kick up the backside. And I know when I read this every year, I get a renewed sense of motivation to go out and do those little projects or make those little visits that I might have put off through the year. I'm not perfect by any stretch. So this is one I shall keep on my shelf forever, and I think it's appropriate to my channel because I don't see myself as a thing. I don't see myself as a bushcrafter, for example. I can't stand that kind of way of thinking. But I do employ, or try to employ, a state of mind through my life and the way that I live my life at home. In many ways, it's kind of the way I want to run my channel this year as well. And I hope everybody would enjoy the journey with me through 2015. Kind of take the good things, take what's relevant, discard what's not, and live a fruitful life alongside nature that way. So a little bit of a thought about Cache Lake country. I hope you found that useful. Let's just read you a first little bit from the introduction called Portage. What's it called? Portage to Contentment. And it says, on most maps, Cache Lake is only a speck hidden among other blue patches big enough to have names. And unless you know where to look, you'll never find it. But a place like Cache Lake is seldom discovered on any map. You just come upon it. That is, if you are lucky. Most men who travel the northward sooner or later happen on a lake or stream that somehow they cannot forget and always want to go back to. Generally, they never do go back. Cache Lake lies deep in a wilderness of spruce and pine, which, except for a timber cruiser like myself, and maybe a trapper now and then, few white men know. But the Indians find it good game country, and so do the big grey timber walls that run its hills. So like many other worthwhile things, there's no easy trail to Cache Lake, for it is protected by distance, mile after forgotten mile of woods and water, and it is still clean and clear and safe from civilization. And I love that opening paragraph. That for me is really powerful. It says, first of all, anything worthwhile is never easy to attain. There needs to be some kind of effort put in to achieving it. And that's no more pertinent to being outdoors. Anything worthwhile, to spot the wildlife, means realistically you have to invest the minutes, the hours, the days, the weeks into actually getting out there. To get to the top of a mountain, for example, to see a cloud inversion or an atmosphere inversion, should we say, takes time and effort. You need to put the miles and the calories in to climb to the top of those mountains. And actually, again, I think it really touches upon the motivational aspect of having that little place in the back of our minds, the little daydreams that we continue to search for. And sometimes when you find somewhere that gets pretty close to it, to just sit back, have a little look and enjoy it for what it is, So there you go, Cache Lake Country, one of my favourite books. I'm going to take a methodical approach moving forward with the videos that I put up, how this book might apply through the seasons, how me and my life might apply through the seasons, and what little adventures and the like we get up to as we go along through the months of the year. Thanks very much for joining me. I'll see you in the next one.